We're going to start in another minute. Just give us one more minute for people to jump on. Yes, happy Tuesday to everybody. Thank you, Adrienne. Happy Tuesday. Okay. Oh, I see it is 5:32, and I did say I was going to start at 5:32. Hello, 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 everybody. Good evening. I'm Robin Rubin, an instructor in the Phyllis and Harvey Sandler School of Social Work at Florida Atlantic University and founder of the Robin Rubin Center for Happiness and Life Enhancement. Welcome to this evening's virtual conversation. I am so grateful to be spending the next hour with you. Before we get started, I want to briefly introduce the Robin Rubin Center to those who may be joining us tonight for the first time. This center is housed in the Sandler School of Social Work within the College of Social Work and Criminal Justice at FAU. We offer weekly wellness programming free of charge and conveniently online. Students, faculty, staff, friends, family are all welcomed and encouraged to attend all of our center's events, which include meditations on Tuesdays and Fridays, as well as special workshops like this one. We're posting a link to our website and calendar events right now in the chat box, so I hope you will make plans to join us. It is now my pleasure, It is now my pleasure to introduce our speaker for this evening, Cina, Hoey. Cina joined us for a workshop last year on tapping and was so popular, we knew we had to invite her back. She is a licensed psychotherapist, mindfulness and meditation instructor, and Reiki master. She received her master's degree in social work from the FAU Sandler School of Social Work and has been continuing to expand her knowledge and skills in the realm of holistic healing for several years. Cina's specialties are working with binge eating disorder, body image issues, low self-esteem and self-worth, behavioral addictions, anxiety, and depression. She uses a blend of evidence-based and holistic wellness practices in order to facilitate deep and sustainable healing. She is also an ex-student of mine, so I know her. So, Cina, please take it away.
Thank you, Robin. It's such an honor to be at FAU. I appreciate so much you inviting me back, and this is a full circle moment for me because the reason why this is so important to me is because my own relationship with food was so horrible for so long. I was a binge eater, an emotional eater. I yo-yo dieted. I was obsessive about my weight and about the way that I looked. And my relationship with food while I was a graduate student was not healthy. And it had nothing to do with the stress of FAU, don't worry. But it was just that time of my life. And that was about 6 or 7 years ago at this point, if you guys can believe it, those of my professors that are here with me. But yeah, so this is a full circle moment for me to be sitting here teaching about the path of healing at FAU. It's amazing. So thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here. I'm really excited to jump right in. So let's get started. I'm going to share my PowerPoint. Okay. So what I teach is a non-diet approach to peace with food, your body, and yourself. And the program that I have developed, and this is my approach. Intuitive and mindful eating is what we're going to be focusing on today, but I did not create the programs of intuitive eating and mindful eating. These have existed before, but this is like my entire approach. And this has become one of my specialties in my therapy practice because I'm so passionate about this and helping people through this. Once you're on the other side of it, it's very, very rewarding to guide others through this. And I hope to do that with you guys tonight. So this is my whole approach. This is the whole thing. Stopping the dieting with mindful and intuitive eating, practicing stress reduction, self-care, regulating your thoughts and emotions without food, self-compassion and acceptance, and then reprogramming some of this consciousness and this conditioning that we have all developed over time and some emotional wounds that get in the way. So that's the whole shebang. But let's dive into mindful and intuitive eating. So the first thing that I want to do actually is I want to drop a mindful eating checklist in our chat box, and I'm going to have all of you fill that out as long as technology, yay, it worked. So go ahead and check the chat box because I put the eating checklist there. So this is basically a quiz. Go ahead and open it. It's 12 yes or no questions. And this is really just to gauge where your relationship with food is at right now. So go ahead, take the quiz, and then do me a favor and put a thumbs up in the chat box when you guys start finishing so I know when it's okay to move forward. So I'll give you a few minutes to do that now. I don't see any thumbs up, but I want to move forward. So if you guys are done, just give me the heads up that it's okay. Thumbs up. Okay, Robin's giving me the thumbs up. So the purpose of the eating checklist is to raise your awareness about where your relationship with food is at right now. And the reason for that is because when I personally was in a horrible relationship with food, I didn't know. I didn't know the extent of how unhealthy my relationship was with food. And I also didn't know that it wasn't like normal, the thoughts that I had about food and the way that I obsessed over what I ate and how I looked and counting calories and things like that. Like I actually did not know. So that this checklist is for you guys to raise your awareness. Some of you might fall in that 0 to 3 category where your relationship with food is mostly healthy, somewhere in the middle where, you know, it's a little bit unhealthy. And then somewhere towards the end where you're like, wow, like I'm really, my relationship with food is really distorted. If that's you, do not panic. That was me for literally 20 years. So I hope that you'll learn something helpful tonight to send you in the right direction. So I want to start with some of these statistics that I found in this book called Beyond a Shadow of a Diet. So I'm just going to read these to you and let these settle in for yourself. 80% of 10-year-olds are afraid to be fat. 80% of young girls have been on a diet by the time they're in 4th grade. Over 50% of females between 18 and 25 would rather be run over by a truck than be fat. And Glamour magazine's survey reported that a majority of respondents said they would be willing to give up a spouse, career, and money to achieve an ideal body. Are you as horrified by these facts as I am? Why are we worrying about being fat at 10 years old? And why are we dieting at 9? And why would we put ourselves in mortal danger rather than have cellulite on our bodies? And this is our culture. This is our society. This is the diet culture. This is the I have to be thin, I have to be better than everybody else culture. And it's toxic and it's horrible. And if we want to change this collective fear that is invading even the youngest of our generation, that starts with us. And we have to heal our perceptions of ourselves, our relationship with food, and our relationships with our body, most importantly, if we are to teach the younger generation something different so that they don't spiral with their self-image for most of their lives, like I had to, and like I know many of you probably have also. So the impact of this fear, this collective fear of being fat, is what drives dieting. Because when you don't feel good about yourself, that's when you lean towards the diet to think like, I'm going to lose weight, this is going to be good for me. But actually, dieting is the biggest problem of all, because dieting is the number one cause of weight gain. And I know you're probably thinking that that's a typo, but that's not a typo. Like, that's exactly what I meant to say. Dieting is the number one cause of weight gain. And here's why. First, I would love to know which diets you all have been on. So if maybe you want to type something in the chat box about what kind of diets, Jenny Craig, Atkins, anyone else, any other diets, any paleos and vegans and Whole30. Yep. Weight Watchers. Anyone else trying to, yep, paleo. Quick weight loss. Oh yeah. I get like high. I break out in hives when I see the gimmicks that say lose 20 pounds in a month. I'm like, oh God, I just know how unhealthy that must be. Yeah. Chantal, I'm with you. I don't know that I could stomach the keto diet. It also grosses me out a little bit. Macros, Susan, I counted macros for 2 years. Fasting, military diet. Mary, you'll have to email me and tell me what that's like. So we've all been on some kind of diet at one time or another. And I have been water pills. Yep. I have been on multiple diets throughout my lifetime. So what I mean when I'm talking about dieting, it's really any way that you restrict yourself. And when you follow a set of rules to tell you what to eat, when to eat, and how much to eat, that does not come from the wisdom of your own body. Now, the problem with dieting is that you're going to see initial weight loss. And so it's like, oh, it works. But the problem is that it's not sustainable, because any of us that have tried diets, we know that like we just can't keep that up for an extended period of time. What happens is that it triggers a biological survival response in us. When we are in a caloric deficit for too long, or when we're too restrictive and we can't eat the foods that we enjoy, there's something in us that arises to let us know it needs more calories. And the longer you try and push that voice off, the louder it's going to get. So your body is really, really smart. It basically has a system of checks and balances trying to keep you alive every single second. If you think about the millions of processes that your body is doing right now, it's always seeking homeostasis. It's so, so brilliant. It's so smart that if you're not eating enough, trust me, it's going to let you know. And if you keep pushing it off and pushing it off, it's just going to get really loud until you can't take it anymore. Your control is going to snap. And that's when you start putting on weight. So another reason why dieting is the number one cause of weight gain is that your body becomes efficient at fat storage, and your metabolism slows down to conserve energy. So if you're not eating enough, the body is like, I need to keep myself alive. And so I'm going to store this fat just in case I don't continuously get the energy that I need. And it's slowing down the metabolism, because the metabolism requires energy. And in order to conserve it, it slows down. And this happens every time we diet. So if you notice that you tried the same diet a few times in a row, but like you're not getting the same results as you used to, or it's not quite as easy, it's because this does damage every time we diet. Don't worry, the body is so resilient. As soon as it knows that it has incoming calories, and it can trust that, it will restore itself. So scarcity is what creates anxiety. And this is what dieting teaches us. It's like, I can't eat this, I can't eat this, I can't eat this. And that leads to anxiety. So on the physical side, on the physiological, biological response, if you're not eating enough, your body's going to flip out. It's going to yell at you so loud until you're at the McDonald's drive-thru at 2 a.m. And if you're not eating enough and you're restricting yourself from the foods that you enjoy, you're going to have like stress about that. It's going to create stress. And What do you do when you're stressed? Anyone else like to over snack when they're stressed? That's what I do. That was always the coping skill. Just think about scarcity in general for a second too. Like if you didn't have enough money to pay your bills, you start obsessing over money and how am I going to pay this? And it causes stress. If your cell phone battery is about to die, but you need your cell phone because you're using it for the GPS and you're driving home, you start to obsess about it. Anytime we have a scarcity of something, it leads to anxiety. There's some really well documented studies about these grown men that go into this research experiment where they are in a caloric deficit for an extended period of time. These men have no prior history of eating disordered behavior. And by the end of like a couple of months or a few months, they're obsessively thinking about food. They're hoarding food. They're hiding food from each other. This is what we do. These behaviors arise from dieting. It's not that we can't trust ourselves around food. It's that dieting creates this. I would love a brave volunteer. And I understand that this might be vulnerable, but what I'm looking for is someone to share with me a food that they think that they have no control over. Is anyone willing to be my guinea pig for that? And chat with me about it and unmute themselves? Anyone? Okay, Robin, you're up.
Somebody else wants to do it, I'll do it. Is there any other volunteers here? I don't see any hands up.
Well, I see some in the chat.
Yeah.
Donna's ready to give it a go. Donna.
Okay, Donna, good. I'm gonna mute myself.
Thank you, Robin.
Anything that's sweet and anything that's cookie oriented, I dive for the box.
What is your favorite cookie, Donna?
Honestly, a Linzer tart that's chocolate.
Yum. Okay. So we're going to play a game. And by the way, what is your, like, do you allow yourself to keep those in the house? Do you only allow yourself to eat them on certain occasions? Like, how often do you get to eat those cookies?
As often as I can go to the store to get them.
Okay. And
I don't have control whether what's in the house because I live with family. And so I don't know what they have and they bring different things in. So that I have no control as far as what is in the house. Our cabinet looks like a candy aisle on at Publix. So
okay. So we're gonna play a game, hypothetically. Okay. And I'm gonna tell you that after this workshop, you're gonna go to the store and you're gonna get 10 boxes of those cookies that you like. Okay.
That's a lot of cookies.
Yeah, it is. And Donna, I'm giving you unconditional permission, guilt-free, to eat as many of these cookies as you want. How many cookies do you think you would eat tonight?
2.
Just 2?
But they're very sweet.
You have unconditional permission to eat as many as you want.
2 would be good.
2 is enough? Okay.
They're very sweet. They're very sweet.
I'm big.
And do you feel like you have no control around them?
I do. In fact, there's one sitting in the kitchen and I've had everything else in the house besides the cookie, which is junk. So now I'm avoiding that one cookie because I know it's sitting there.
But why isn't it okay to have one cookie?
Because I had licorice and other things before, so it's sugary.
What's the food that like you would eat the whole box? You just can't.
A licorice would be a licorice.
All right. So we're going back to Publix and we're getting 10 bags of licorice.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay. And how much licorice you have unconditional permission to eat? How much licorice are you going to eat tonight in one sitting?
Probably 8 or 10 of the big pieces.
Great. Okay. Now, tomorrow you still have like 8.5 bags left. How much licorice are you going to eat tomorrow? Unconditional permission to eat as much as you want.
Probably 6 because of guilt.
And if guilt wasn't a part of it and you really were just allowed to eat as much as you wanted, would you maybe eat 8 again?
Maybe.
Okay. Now, how about on day 3?
I'd be kind of probably bored with it and not want it so much.
Okay. So you're right. And at this point is when I would say, go back to the store and get 3 more bags and restock. And you still have unconditional permission to eat. How many do you think you would eat on day 4?
I don't know, because the word unconditional changes it kind of, because then you're not telling yourself no, you're saying you can. And to be able to say you can somehow does the shift in the brain that I'm not understanding.
You are allowed to eat as much as possible, just for this hypothetical scenario. So what clients will typically say to me when I say this to them, they'll say, oh, I'd eat the whole bag. I'm like, all right, next day, I'd eat another whole bag. I can't control myself. Next day, oh, maybe I'll eat a little less, just like you said. But when you started to say, I might eat 6, I might eat a little less, I might be getting sick of it. It's not actually that you get sick of the food, because Donna, no matter how many chocolate chip cookies I have eaten in my life and how many times I binged on them, I still like them and I can never get sick of them. However, if you give yourself the permission to eat those foods in whatever quantities you need to, the anxiety about them goes down. They become so much, the abundance of them reduces the anxiety and reduces the scarcity. You can eat these at any time. You don't have to overdo it when they're available to you. Does that make sense?
100%. That's interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for volunteering. I so appreciate it. So that is the concept with stocking. Stocking means you need to give yourself permission to eat these foods. It is the scarcity and the deprivation that drives the dysfunctional behavior of feeling like you have no control over food. And we all know that feeling, and it is not fun. I have a client who did this with chips, and she showed up in session the other day and told me that her chips were stale in her cabinet. And we were like cheering, like that was such a win. Because what ends up happening is that those foods lose their shine and they lose their control over you. So, and you lose trust in yourself. Like that's the biggest problem of all. I think that is the largest consequence of dieting, is that you lose trust in yourself. So if you are someone who feels like you have no control and you think about food constantly and you identify in this way, you are likely restricting yourself too much. And the idea that you have no control is funny, because if you're a dieter, you have too much control. You have too much willpower. You have practiced this way too many times. The important fact here is that people don't fail, diets fail. So you can stop shaming yourself and thinking that you can't trust yourself. 95% of people gain weight back and then some when they go on a diet. This is why dieting is no longer the answer. And when you're losing weight, you'll say, oh, it's Jenny Craig's fault, but when the weight gain comes back on, it's my fault. And then I shame spiral. So now I feel ashamed, I feel fat, and I feel disgusted with myself. And what do you think I go for? Time for another diet, right? And round and round and round you go on another diet. The diet fails, you gain weight, you feel terrible about yourself, your self-esteem tanks, you go on another diet. And I did this for 20 years. And anyone that tells you that this is just something you're going to have to manage for the rest of your life is not free. And you can be free of this. Eating regularly does not cause weight gain. The overeating, the binge eating, the emotional eating, and the metabolic damage, all driven by dieting, is what causes weight gain. So in order for you to heal your relationship with food and eat in a more normal and balanced way, weight loss kind of has to go on the back burner for right now, because it's that weight loss and that fear of being overweight and the shame of your body that drives the dieting and starts the whole cycle. So this brings me to intuitive eating. What am I supposed to eat, Cina? I don't get it. I don't understand. If I'm not supposed to diet, like, who do I listen to? Well, that's a great question, because there's every single diet under the sun will tell you that they're the best one. But who are you supposed to listen to? Because there's actually science to support many different diets. But which group is right? You. That's the answer. You are the judge of what is right for your body. I'm going to go through some of the basics of intuitive eating. One of the free gifts that I have for you for this presentation is a downloadable PDF on the basics of the 10 principles of intuitive eating. And I want you to, like, if you find this helpful, like, make sure that you read that ebook that I gave to you guys. And it really goes into this in depth, but here are the basics. Basically, you have to eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full. And I know that that might sound elementary. I know that that might sound really basic and maybe isn't that helpful, but let me explain what I mean by that. When you are dieting, you are not paying attention to your hunger. You're paying attention to the diet. So if you're intermittent fasting, you're only allowing you're pushing off your hunger for several hours. If you're counting your calories, you are pushing off your hunger because you went through all your calories for that day. And anytime you do that, you make your hunger even stronger. And that's when your control snaps. Now, the next instruction is to stop when you're full. I know that sounds basic too, but how many of us really stop when we're full, or we only eat as much as we think we're supposed to eat or something like that? I sometimes use the example of filling up your gas tank. So when your gas light goes on, it's basically like your car is telling you it's hungry, like it needs gas. So you have to go to the gas station. You know that your car is literally not going to work if you don't go and get gas. But when you go and stop and get gas, you don't, when the tank is full, you stop pumping the gas. You don't say like, meh, I'll fill up the back seat too. Or like, I'll just let the gas start like overflowing, you stop when you're full. So one of the ways that you can do this is by checking in with your hunger and using the hunger scale. So everybody right now, I want you to take a nice deep breath. Let your body relax. Most importantly, let your belly relax and soften. And on a 0 to 10 scale, 0 being my belly is completely empty, 10 being my belly is completely full, I'm so stuffed, where is your body right now? And this takes practice, but I'm going to do it with you too. My belly is probably at like a 4. Like I'm going to need to eat soon. I'm going to eat after this. So I see the chat going. You guys saying where you're at? 8, 5, 3, 8. Perfect. So Holly's at a 3. Holly, you're going to need to eat soon. Your gas light just came on. Robin, you're at an 8. You are good for a little while. And it's basically just about continuing to attune to your body in this way. And then you ask yourself, like, what do I feel like eating? Not what's healthy, what's low carb, what am I allowed to eat, but what do I feel like eating? Like, what am I going to enjoy? And choose foods that you enjoy, guilt-free. If you're not satisfied, if you don't like the foods that you're eating, it's only a matter of time until you eat those foods that you like, and you're most likely going to end up overeating them. Make the best match possible. This means that based on what you have available and what you feel like eating, make the best match. If you're at a restaurant, you might be able to eat exactly what you want. You might want a wrap or a salad or a soup or a smoothie, and you can get any of that. But if you're home, like if I'm in between sessions with clients and I only have a few things available, I just need to say, like, which one of those do I want the most? And you make the best match possible. This is also about making present moment food choices. What I mean by present moment food choices is that you do not make choices about what to eat based on what you ate before. Oh, I ate pancakes for breakfast, so I'm only allowed to have a smoothie for lunch. And you're not allowed to make, or you're not supposed to make food choices about what you might eat later. So for example, if you know that you have like a dinner later, or it's a special event, you might be eating a heavier meal. It's not like, oh, I'm only going to eat, I'm only going to have egg whites for breakfast because I want to save my calories for later. That is not honoring your hunger in the present moment, and your body will respond to that. And it damages your relationship and your intuitive relationship and attunement to yourself when you push off and ignore what your body needs in that moment. So it's also about making food choices that are supportive to your body. Partner with your body. The only time we eat foods that do not feel good in our body in a repeated way and we keep overeating is when we're disconnected from our body. This is all about body attunement and continuing to check in with yourself. I want to make a really quick note about food allergies, because I know some of you watching are probably like, well, what if I can't eat certain foods? What if I can't give myself unconditional permission to eat the foods I want, like bread or something, if I have a gluten intolerance? I totally understand that. And I empathize with you because I know that that's a challenge and it feels like that scarcity factor. But there are two tips that I have. You have to find alternatives that are satisfying to you. And then you have to continue to commit to making food choices that are supportive to your body and asking yourself, how do I want to feel after I eat this meal? Because a lot of those foods that don't that you have allergies or sensitivities to don't make your body feel good at all. And so you have to commit to asking yourself, what do I feel like eating and what's going to be a supportive food choice? This is the basis of intuitive eating, because not dieting does not mean a free for all. It doesn't mean like, oh, I eat chocolate cake 3 times a day because I don't diet anymore. That's not you connecting with your body. That's you dissociating from your body, and that's not intuitive eating. So I've just like put side by side some of these food rules. So food rules are all of the garbage and the nonsense that we learn from dieting for most of our lives, like I did. So I have a few examples here. One is I shouldn't eat after 7 p.m. That's the diet mind and a food rule. Intuitive eating would say, I already ate dinner, but I guess I'm still hungry. What kind of snack am I having? Diet mind would say, I better exercise so I can earn my calories for later. Intuitive eating would say, I'm allowed to eat regardless of if I exercised or not today. Diet mind would say, well, I already ate too many carbs today, so I might as well eat whatever I want. I'll just start over again tomorrow. You all know the screw it mentality, where you're just like, I guess I could do whatever I want now. Intuitive eating would say, even though I feel like I ate a lot earlier, my body is letting me know it's hungry again. What would be a supportive food choice right now? So you see the difference here. It goes from all these rules and restrictions, and intuitive eating is like, what's happening within me right now? What do I need? How can I stay present? What are the needs of my body? So do you want to share some of your food rules? If you want to put some things in the chat box. Things that you tell yourself or that you learned you should or shouldn't do with food. One of my food rules was that I wasn't supposed to eat 2 different types of carbohydrates in one day. I don't know where I got that. I'm not sure. Or that I shouldn't eat until about, don't eat before. Rob and I used to do the same thing. I was an intermittent faster, which really meant that I starved myself and I drank sparkling water all morning. Anyone else have food rules that they can share? No food after 8. Yes. And the fun fact is that your body can't tell time. Drink water when I'm hungry. Yes, definitely. I've done that too. Don't let sweets be the first thing you eat. Interesting. But what if I want chocolate chip pancakes for breakfast, Adrian? What if I need that? Drink a cup of tea before bed. Mm-hmm. Is that like an appetite thing or like a metabolism thing? Or I love hearing other people's food rules. Thank you. Thank you all for I eat them. Good, Adrian. Don't eat unhealthy foods, even if I crave them. I hope you're seeing that. The more you push off those unhealthy foods, the more unhealthy, by the way, the more you're going to crave them, Kristen. Eat carbs only once a day. Allie, I'm with you. I had so many rules about carbs. Thank you guys for sharing. I love it. Ginger tea is good for digestion. Yep. Okay. So now this brings me to like part 2 of the intuitive mindful approach, and they go really well together. So mindful eating, I teach in 3 phases. Mindful eating happens before, during, and after you eat. So before you eat, it's about that self check-in. Where's my hunger level at? How does my body feel? Am I physically hungry? Am I just bored? Am I emotional? Am I procrastinating? I love snacking instead of doing productive things. I'm sure someone here is with me on that. Is this mouth hunger or stomach hunger? Stomach hunger is when you tune into your belly and your belly is empty. And mouth hunger is like, I'm just feeling snacky, like I just need something. I just need a treat here. I just want something that tastes good. Which, by the way, you're allowed to eat. Just do it mindfully. How do I want to feel after eating this meal? This, by the way, is the key to weight loss without dieting. Is that you keep making choices about how you want to feel, and you keep making the most supportive food choices rather than saying, I'm not supposed to eat a burger. You say, how do I want to feel after this meal? Well, the last time I ate a burger, I felt really heavy and bloated. And I don't really want to feel like that again. And so, I make this choice or that choice. It's not about eating the healthiest food. It's just about you continuing to partner with your body. Another tip for mindful eating is take deep breaths before you eat. Like slow yourself down check in with yourself, relax your stomach, take deep breaths, like know that you are about to enter into food, and like bring your focus and your attention to the meal. The other thing is to feel gratitude. We're really blessed that we even have the option to eat any food that we want, and that we can go to Publix down the street or the grocery store down the street and just pick up whatever it is that we feel like eating. And there's delivery dudes and Uber Eats that will deliver anything I want to my doorstep. I'm really grateful for that. And when you start expressing gratitude for your food before you eat it, and you sit with the food for a second and just contemplate, like, thank you, you start to make different food choices. Mindful eating during your meal is eating slowly. Pay attention. Like your meal deserves your full attention. For anyone here that has practiced mindfulness or meditation, you know that when you're meditating, usually your breath or your body sensations or sounds or mantras are the object of your meditation. For mindful eating, food is the object of your meditation. I was on a silent meditation retreat, and the monks do everything in silence, but during our meal, we were taught, put your fork down in between each bite. And they taught mindful eating in that way to slow down. And I teach that to everyone. It's been a really helpful tip for a lot of my clients. Eat without distractions. If you are eating, watching TV, good luck listening for your fullness cue, because you're not going to hear it. And that's mindless eating. No Twitter, no TikTok, no social media, email, no working lunches. Like, eat without distractions when possible. I also challenge you to eat one meal a day, at least one meal this week, in complete silence. Please do this. Please email me and tell me about it. Give food your full attention. This will help you listen for your fullness cue. Also, how you lose weight without dieting, because you don't gain weight from just eating normally. You gain weight from the overeating and the binge eating and the emotional eating. So if you can listen for your fullness cue, you're less likely to overeat when you're really present with your food. Now, after you listen for your body's feedback, your body's always talking to you. The mind-body connection is very strong. Your body is so intelligent. It's always communicating with you, but we have to listen to it. Above all, this is about healing your relationship with yourself. It's not just about your body. So how does this food feel in my body? Where is my fullness level at? How is my digestion? How is my energy? Am I satisfied? This is how you start to make those wiser choices moving forward about which foods are right for you. It's no longer the diet. It's you. You are like the science experiment within yourself. Is like, I decide which foods are right for me. I'm not this set of food rules that I've been given by some fitness coach on Instagram. I'm going to probably pause after this just for the sake of time, but your relationship with food being out of balance is simply a call for healing. It is a call that you are out of balance in your relationship with you. And it's about just continuing to tune in. And I always say that my eating disorder was my greatest gift. And I know that sounds outrageous. And trust me, when I was in it, that is not the mentality that I had. It was miserable. It was agony. I was devastated. I was ashamed. But that experience, that disorder forced me to heal my relationship with myself. And I would not be where I am at today without that eating disorder. And healing that relationship with myself leaked into so many other areas of my life in such a beautiful and positive way. My self-awareness, my self-compassion, my compassion for others. So do not be discouraged. And this can actually be a catalyst for massive healing and growth for you on so many levels. So I really want to make sure that I save time for questions. So I'm actually going to pause right here, even though I could talk about this for 2 more hours. Robin, you'll have to invite me back for part 2 sometime.
So before we start to take questions, we're going to put in the chat box the short links to the downloads, right? Is that what we're going to do? Yeah, I think so. Put those in the chat box. And in addition to that, your feedback is so important to us. We are going to take questions, so don't go anywhere. So I'm sure there's lots of questions. And here is actually Cina's email. So quickly jot that down, and her website. Okay. And then I'm going to go back to here. So we have that chat box. Great. So before we dig into the questions, we need everyone to complete the survey, which hopefully you did now. And your feedback is so important to us. It helps us do what we're doing and see where we need to fine tune it. And what kind of events are you looking to hear about? So it only takes a minute. So thank you. And then let's look at some of the questions because they were already popping in there. Let's look at the chat. Whoops. Okay. So those are the additional resources. So let me go back up here. There was a question right here. Whoops. Ashley, what happened to that question? 1 second. Okay, Donna.
Oh,
is it true? Yep, I found it. Is it true that you should eat there's a very popular diet right now. It's called Optavia. And I know a lot of people that have lost a lot of weight on it. And that's not what she said. That's what I'm saying. But it encourages you to eat every 2.5 hours. Is it true that you should eat every 2 hours? I've heard this from many people, despite the statements made here.
So eating every 2 hours sounds like a food rule to me. And I would tell you to check in with your body and see if you are hungry every 2 hours. And if you are, then eat every 2 hours. But if you're not, eat when you're hungry. And if you are if you're finding that you're always hungry, maybe some of those meals aren't substantial enough to hold you over. So again, like I would challenge doing something just because a diet told me to do it. That's a food rule.
Thank you. So Susie says, I always have to eat something sweet after a good meal. Why? And by the way, me too. I always want like something sweet.
That's habitual. When you always crave something sweet after a meal, there's 2 reasons. One is that it's just habitual. Like you have trained yourself to want something sweet after the meal. There's also the possibility that you're not satisfied enough with the food that you ate. And if I want something, but I eat a salad instead, or I eat something without the bread or whatever, like it's not long until I'm at the cabinet, like, what kind of snacks do I have in here? Like, let me toast a waffle and put Nutella on it. So I would say 1 is that that's really usually just habitual. And 2, you might not be satisfied enough with your food. But if it is just habitual, you can really use mindfulness here to know that as soon as you're done eating, you get that urge. You're like, there's that urge for something sweet. Get really mindful with that and see what happens if you just notice it without feeling the need to follow through on it or react to it. And then the other thing that I would say about that is like, so have something sweet, this is about flexibility and unless there's like a major problem with you eating something sweet after your meals, maybe it's not such a big problem.
Okay, so we have another question. Chantal wants to know, how do you deal with stress eating?
Stress and emotion, that's a great question, because if you feel like you're overeating and binge eating and stress eating, but you're not dieting, the culprit is 100% emotional. And so you have to find ways to regulate your stress without food. And that's a lot of what I teach in like my programs and with my individual sessions is like, where are you getting out of balance through the day? This is also about checking in with yourself. I consider this self-regulation. What can you do to manage your own stress? Mindfulness, meditation, journaling, exercise. Like there's so many things to do to manage your emotions without food. And you have to find what those things are, which ones work for you, and practice them as much as you possibly can. And forgive yourself when the emotions are too powerful and you reach for that food anyway. Food is what our first source of soothing and comfort. It's It's very comforting. We've all been conditioned to eat when we're upset. So be easy on yourself about that. But I would say that learning those skills and tools, EFT tapping, self-compassion, like I use like a ton of different tools with my clients to teach them how to regulate their emotions without food. Your emotions are just messengers. And it's important to remember that even when the emotional storm comes up, it cannot drive your behavior. It's you that follows through, that responds to those emotions, that makes them want to go away by eating. And so if you don't judge your emotions as bad, you befriend them and you say like, okay, I'm feeling really sad and anxious right now. Can I be with that? It dissolves the need to fix it. We try and fix our emotions with food, but food is not going to fix an emotional problem ever.
Other questions? I don't know if I got all the questions in the chat box. I'm just going back.
I just saw one, and that's a good question. Thank you for asking that. No, do not get to a 0. Anne asked, should you wait until you're at a 0 to eat, or should you eat before you get to that level? Definitely don't let yourself get to a 0. If the tank is complete, what happens if your gas tank's at 0? You're in the middle of the highway, the car stops working. Do not let yourself get to a 0. Around a 3, you should really be eating something. And then also don't let yourself get to a 10. When you're at a 7, 8, you're good. So it's like finding this balance in between 0 and 10, which is like, as emotional eaters and binge eaters, we tend to swing in those extremes. So if you want to stop swinging to those extremes, don't let yourself get down to a 0. That's a really good question. Thank you for asking it.
We have another question. My doctor told me to stop eating butter, bread, pasta, and sweets to combat midlife weight gain, and it's backfiring. How do I deal with a doctor's advice on eating foods I love?
So I really appreciate your awareness of the fact that that restriction is backfiring on you, and you're understanding that that might not be the best approach for you. How to deal with doctor advice on eating foods you love is that your doctor means well and cares about you, and this is their perception and what they have been taught in medical school. And so you can respect their choices, and you can respect their information and their wisdom, and you can try it on for yourself. And if it works for you, then you keep doing it. If it doesn't, you are the judge of whether or not you listen to that doctor for that particular bit of advice.
And I just want to add that if the doctor is older, when they went to medical school, they took one class on nutrition.
Mm.
And today, I think it's a little bit different. The current doctors there's more of a mind-body connection. But if it's an older doctor, they took one class, and
yeah, I would also add that doctors really fixate on weight. And like, if you have any kind of health condition, and if you are even a little bit overweight, they will point to that first. But if you educate yourself on the health at every size movement, you will see that like, as long as your levels are good and you're healthy and you're within a certain range, but you feel okay and things are mostly good, it's just, let's like pause for a second before we point to weight gain. And also those charts, those BMI charts, are not accurate. And I've had clients show up in session devastated that they were told that they were obese when like clearly looking at them, they were not obese. So doctors mean well, but make sure that you find one that listens to you and will understand your preferences and your needs when it comes to your body.
Okay, we have another question. What about bad cholesterol levels and how to get them back to normal without medication?
Bad cholesterol levels and how to get them back to normal without medication. So I don't know what causes bad cholesterol levels, and I don't know what in a person's body is causing bad cholesterol levels. And I don't know that if that's genetic or if that's based on food choices or not. So I would have trouble answering that question, but I'm assuming what you mean is, what if the foods that I'm eating are causing high cholesterol? I think certainly you have to respect your own choices about whether or not to take any kind of medication. And that goes back to making supportive food choices about like, well, how do I want to feel? Well, after I eat this type of food, I feel brain fog, I feel bloated, I feel like my heart races, something in my body doesn't sit right. Those foods are not right for you.
And just, Susie, I would actually ask my doctor about, because if it's genetic, then sometimes the food choices will not make a difference, although very often they do. How do you feel about fasting? I've heard many benefits about it, but I feel like it's a process, though.
That's a great question. How I feel about fasting is that I understand that many people talk about the benefits of it in the same way that a lot of people will talk about the benefits of the Mediterranean diet and of eating whole foods and all of those things. And there may be, in fact, benefits to eating that way. However, if you tell yourself you have to do these things, the restriction is likely going to be too powerful that you're going to have that backfiring effect. And fasting is one of the most restrictive things that you can do. You're pushing off your hunger. I have clients that tell me, Cina, I'm really never hungry at breakfast time. And I don't get hungry until about, like 10 in the morning. And I'm like, all right, so eat at 10 in the morning. Like, that's no problem. I don't get hungry until 11. No problem. Eat at 11. Like, listen to your body. If you are naturally not hungry until that time, fine. But if you're hungry and you're pushing off your hunger and you're drinking a very large iced coffee and you're like counting down the minutes until you're allowed to eat, I don't recommend this. And generally, for those of us that have a history of having a distorted and dysfunctional relationship with food, any of these lifestyle changes that are probably healthy for some people are not right for us while we're healing our relationship with food. And you may gravitate towards those lifestyle changes at some point in your life. Like after being recovered and like really getting in a nice rhythm and balance and eating intuitively for a while, you might find that you naturally gravitate towards a Mediterranean diet or to fasting or to a vegan diet or a paleo diet or a keto diet. But for right now, especially in these beginning stages, you kind of need unconditional permission to eat. And fasting is the opposite of that. So not the biggest fan.
I'm just curious. You said towards the beginning that 90% of 10-year-olds have been on a diet or something like that. Yeah. So the percentage of the population that has an unhealthy relationship with food must be, I mean, I'm going to just tell you almost every woman I know has an unhealthy relationship with food. Almost every woman. I don't know if I can think of any that have a good one.
I know.
That's kind of disturbing, actually.
Sad. It's so sad. And it really shows you and reflects the values of our culture. And we wonder why our rates of anxiety and depression are so high too. This is reflective of a lack of self-acceptance. And that's why it's a major pillar of what I teach my clients. Because if you can accept yourself, you don't have to go on a diet. And you don't have to start like distorting your relationship with food. But yeah, our culture is sick. We value the wrong things.
If you don't mind sharing, I'm just curious, do you follow any kind of, like, do you not eat meat? Are you a vegan? I'm just curious what your...
No, I love food. And I did that for so long. The things that I did the most were paleo, vegan, intermittent fasting, and counting my macronutrients. That was like my particular brand. And also I was very heavily into fitness for most of my life. And so I did a lot of like eating clean and then doing a cheat day on the weekend, which really turned into just like literally like a 12-hour binge. And I thought that was normal at that time too. Like it was a very toxic culture. But at this point, no, I'll eat any food at any time. I love tacos and I love pizza and I love chicken nuggets and I also love protein shakes and egg whites and eggs and vegetables. And I love like the full spectrum of food. And sometimes my body will ask me for a banana and peanut butter. And sometimes it will ask me for cookies. And I try and respect that. every day. And that's my practice. And by the way, I don't want to give anyone the impression that my relationship with food and my body is perfect, but it is an ongoing commitment to myself to be as compassionate and as kind and as loving to myself as I possibly can. And that doesn't mean that I still don't sometimes have negative thoughts about my body. It doesn't mean that I still don't sometimes have the urge to eat less and look good. I just don't listen anymore.
I guess when you take away that I can't, sorry about my dogs, when you take away, I can't have the cookie, to I can have the cookie, do I want that now? Is almost like the difference between, restricting yourself from having it to like, do I want to have that?
Yeah, totally.
Oh my goodness. It's such I think that we could probably talk about this all night. I know I could, so I'm just speaking for myself, and yeah, I need to heal my relationship with food for sure. So this has been a fantastic conversation, but we are just about out of time. And I want to thank Cina for being with us tonight. And like she said, she has a whole nother half of a presentation. So I think we need to bring her back. Guidance of how we can introduce mindfulness to our eating habits and help restore food body balance without dieting. Please share. She already did share, but put it in the chat where people can find you if they want to connect. And like she does have a website. To everyone on the call, thank you for spending part of your evening with us. We hope you'll join us for our next workshop on Tuesday, February 5th. Oh, that is today, Tuesday, February 15th. Actually, our next workshop is, what's the date, Ashley?
Putting me on the spot. When is our next?
Sorry.
Hold on.
He's going to get it. So,
all right, March 22nd at 5:30. So we always do it on Tuesdays. So our next Tuesday evening workshop is March 22nd at 5:30 p.m. titled Meditation, the Basics, the Benefits, and How to Integrate It into Your Life. So
awesome. So that's our next workshop. Please join us then. And it's been wonderful seeing you all tonight, and come back and join us again. So good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
It was awesome.
Oh, thank you, Robin.
It was awesome. I need another course in it. I need another